Welcome to Chicago Live on this Tuesday. We have a stacked show for you. We will be chatting with a cybersecurity expert later on about whether the U.S. is prepared to handle continued attacks. We'll also be chatting with the winner of the Illinois Best Grocery Bagger competition coming up here. But first, let's start with politics. Yesterday, we chatted with one of our colleagues from Fox 6 in Milwaukee about the race for governor there. Early voting is underway in Wisconsin. Now we want to take things out to Michigan, another swing state where today is election day. Let's bring in our Amy Lang from Fox in Detroit. Hi, Amy. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks so much for having me. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about where you're standing right now.
Okay, I am in a big convention center called Huntington Place, and this is where it's kind of ground zero. This is where all the ballots come into. This is where the counting is done. And so it is pretty quiet here right now, but you do see the various teams, you see challengers, everything so far running very, very smoothly. Detroit kind of has this down to a science, as all the clerks really do. I mean, they train so many election workers here in the city of Detroit. They train 4,000 election workers. They have 157 polling sites. I mean, this is a big deal and something that the city and the city clerk and the director of elections take very, very seriously. And so you're just kind of watching as the ballots are coming in, they're counting. We have to stay back here, obviously. They want the media to, respect the ballot. And obviously the integrity of the vote is very, very important. So we have seen early voting. Early voting ended here in rather Sunday. So Sunday, the early voting ended. Today is, because we have in-person early voting. We have absentee voting, so you can still get your absentee ballots in, although nobody should mail them at this point. They have to be delivered. And then, of course, we have, the actual folks going to the polls today. As long as they're in line at 8 o'clock, they're going to be able to cast their ballots. So it's going to be a long night for these teams of people here, these election workers at Huntington Place. So we're just, kind of at the beginning. They've been voting since about 7 a.m. We did have that early voting, as we talked about. And here in the state of Michigan, we've had about 1.3 million people vote already in the state. And so, we have some important races. We have a new governor for the first time in 8 years. And so right now, the Democratic challengers, Jocelyn Benson, who's our current Secretary of State, and Swanson, who is our sheriff in Genesee County, they are, on the ballot to seek and win that Democratic nomination to be the candidate. And then the real big, I think, race that everyone is watching, sort of on a national level, is the race for senator. So we have Gary Peters retiring, and he's a Democrat, seeking that seat now. Haley Stevens is the current congresswoman, and Abdul Al-Sayed, who is a doctor. He's worked in public health, director of the Department of Public Health here in Detroit for several years. He is this real charismatic, podcast guy, and writes books. He's really quick on his feet. He is pretty awesome on the debate stage. And then you have Haley Stevens, who's a more seasoned politician, Democrat as well. She says she's going to get things done. He says things need to be done in a new way. He's definitely much more on that progressive end of the scale, and she's on that sort of more moderate Democratic scale. So these two are seeking to be the nominee, the candidate, to go up against Mike Rogers. So he's a former congressman here. He's a formidable candidate. He's the Republican who will be on the ballot in November. And the Democrats obviously really want to retain this seat since they already have it in the Senate. And, obviously if Democrats have any hope of flipping the Senate, they've got to hang on to that seat. But this also comes down to this sort of fight within the Democratic Party about its future, right? Is it sort of more this middle of the road or really more on this progressive bent? So it's a lot. I mean, he has momentum. Haley Stevens has a ton of money backing her, and he's got a ton of momentum. So we'll see at the end of the day it is.
Certainly a high-stakes primary there in Michigan. It really does look like a well-oiled machine there. We see the golf carts driving around behind you. I know you mentioned you're in that sort of restricted media area there. We see the tape on the ground. Have you heard from voters leading up to today in recent weeks? What are they saying as they head to the polls?
I think you have a really good mix of people who believe in Haley Stevens, you know, in terms of she's proven, she's represented, you know, Michiganders for a long time. And then these other folks who really like what they're hearing from Abdul Syed. You know, they're hearing Medicare for all. They're hearing, let's get money out of politics. And you know, you have Haley Stevens, who's gotten millions, tens of millions of dollars from AIPAC. So you have this sort of Israel versus Palestine sort of, you know, idea as well that that kind of seeps in, that people don't really talk about, but it's sort of always there. So, yeah, it's a very big race, but I think, again, you know, we hosted at Fox 2 a debate, and it was Haley Stevens and Abdul Syed, and he was very, very strong in that debate. And I went out and talked to voters after and said, did anything sway you? And mostly what I heard was, I already had in mind who I was going to vote for, and this just cemented it. And that was both for Haley Stevens and Abdul Syed, even though most people thought he had a stronger presence during that debate. So, yeah, I think this is a really, really tight race, and you know, all eyes are on it. Everybody's been talking about it at a national level. We've had media in from everywhere. You know, it's interesting on you know, a number of fronts, right? You know, do we hang on to this Democratic seat here in Michigan? Do we see someone who's elected who is more moderate for the Democrats, or someone who's more on the progressive end, like we've seen happen in New York City? You know, what's the future of this party? So we're watching all of this play out in real time right here in Michigan.
Thank you so much, Amy Lang. We appreciate you taking time to chat with us today, and we will be monitoring the results throughout the day.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Amy. Well, bringing things back here at home, the Illinois Best Bagger competition was underway this afternoon at Mariano's in the South Loop. The winner of this competition will go on to compete in the Best Bagging Competition state finals in Springfield to vie for a chance in the finals in Las Vegas. We want to bring in the winner of today's competition, Karina Cervantes. Hi, Karina. And you have your trophy.
Hi.
I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how long you have worked for Mariano's.
2 years there, like 2.5.
And tell us about today's competition. We know that this wasn't just about speed, it was about precision, it was about weight distribution. Walk me through today's competition.
Well, first of all, I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm covering for someone.
No way.
And I said, oh, what the heck? Yes. And I'm like, you know, I'll just do it for fun. But I do love my job. I do love what I do, and I love Mariano's. I guess it paid off.
It paid off. Okay, I love that trophy you've got there too. Maybe our photographer can
Thank you.
Zoom in a little bit to that. That is awesome. So now you're going to the next round of the competition. Give us some details on that. We understand, oh, and it says GOAT. That is so fitting for Karina. Give us some details on that competition.
Not sure about the...
You're gonna go. You're gonna go.
I didn't know.
Karina,
anything.
who's
I
with
just
you?
Know my co-workers, Brittany, Markel, Carmen, and 2 little munchkins. Where are you? Carmen's kids.
Oh.
Yay!
And where are you from? Are you from Western Springs? What it says on that poster?
Yes, Western Springs.
And is that the location you work at? The kiddos are hiding.
Yes, exactly. You're hiding. Don't hide.
So, Karina, tell me a little bit. When you are bagging groceries in a competition like today, you've got eyes on you, the judges are watching you. What was going through your mind? And tell me what you had to pack. What did the competition entail? Was it a full belt of groceries?
Yeah, it was but it was like boxes and like jars. You know, there was no eggs, no meat, so that was good. And I just bagged the way I normally bag at work. I like to be, I take my time and do it right.
Take your time, precision, and it did pay off.
Yes.
Dozens of people, I believe, were there to compete in this today. So we want to know, those of us here at Fox 32, you know, now there's so many self-checkouts at grocery stores. Please tell us, what is the proper way when we're doing self-checkout to bag our own groceries? What should go first? And what should go down at the bottom? What should go sideways?
Well, first of all, I try to put like some heavy stuff, but I try to even it out. And, you know, not too heavy. It depends. Unless customers would like it heavy, I make it heavy. But, I just try to even everything out, you know.
You're right. Some people want everything.
I'm doing a good job.
You are doing a great job. Paper or plastic, Karina?
I love it. Plastic, well, a lot of customers do like paper, and paper is probably even better when you bag.
Sturdier?
Yes, sturdier, yes.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If you go on to state and you win, you'll have a shot at going to Las Vegas. Have you ever been to Vegas? What goes through your mind when you think of that possibility?
Slot machines? No, just kidding. I don't know. Vegas?
Hey, when in Vegas?
It's been a long time.
Well, we wish
I've been there. There was years ago.
Well, we wish you luck.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to work for Mariano's. I love it. I love my coworkers, my managers, everybody, my customers. I just love it.
I think you might need to keep that trophy with you for a few days at work and put it next to your station.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Congratulations. And we will look forward to seeing you compete in Springfield at the state competition, and then fingers crossed for a trip to Vegas.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm very happy. For my kids, my granddaughters, I love you guys.
Thank you, Karina. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are tracking a fire in Homewood. We will bring you the latest on that as we have it. Sky Fox is heading to the scene. It appears to be at a condo building. When we get more information from officials, we will bring that to you. We've got a lot more coming up. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. There it is. It looks like Chopper just arrived. We'll come back to that after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Before we continue with the program, we do need to head out to some breaking news in Homewood. Taking place in the 18,400 block of Cherry Creek Drive, a condo fire. It does look like it is mainly put out. We have Skyfox over the scene there. You still see quite a big response, though. Firefighters up on that ladder, and you can see water spraying out of at least one unit. So there is a response there. It is unclear right now if there were any injuries. We will bring you the latest on this scene as soon as we have it. But we do know that it was a 2-alarm fire. A big response seems to be settling down. And it does appear that the fire has been put out for the most part. Typically when they're spraying water like that still, they're looking for hot spots. You can see the firefighters there on scene. Don't look particularly in a hurry right now, which is a good thing. It does appear that the scene is under control, but you can still see all of those hoses out around that condo complex. Again, we'll bring you the latest on that as we learn it. We hope no injuries, but we have not heard from officials yet if everyone is okay. Switching gears now, we want to celebrate with Eli's Cheesecake. Our friends there were kind enough to make us a celebratory cheesecake for the TV debut of Chicago Live this week. So kind of them. And we want to bring in the president and CEO of Eli's Cheesecake, Mark Schulman. Mark, thank you for being with us. First of all, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for doing this. We so appreciate it.
Oh, what a great accomplishment and everything you've been able to do. And Eli's creating special cakes. They could be on the smaller size or 1,000 pounds, but we're very happy we could get it there today. And, you know, and you said the other cakes we provided have been well received by the team.
They were well received, well eaten pretty soon after they arrived. Tell us, what kind of cheesecake is this?
This is a seed cake. It's our original plain cheesecake, and then customized. We do it for birthdays and special events. So it's a fun way to, you know, customize the offerings and, you know, make it special for an occasion. And, you know, at Eli, that's something we've been doing really dating back to my dad in 1987 for Chicago's 150th birthday cake. Just a week ago, we did a basketball cake for the WNBA All-Star Game in Chicago, a 1,000-pound cheesecake at the Taste of Chicago. So we love to celebrate, and celebrating great events in Chicago is really comes first.
How did the Taste of Chicago end up going? There's a close-up of it. Isn't it beautiful? Love the sprinkles on there and the logo, of course. Tell us about the Taste of Chicago, though, and specifically that 1,000-pound cheesecake. How do you even start to tackle that job?
Obviously, carefully. It's about 2 weeks of baking and preparation. We do assemble it here. You have to transport it very carefully. We did have one cake one year that fell a little bit, and we had to bring it back up. This was perfect. It is finished there by our pastry chefs, and this was a special year. Not only was it 46 years since Eli's Cheesecake debuted at the first Taste of Chicago, but the cake was escorted by the Shannon Rovers. They had just celebrated 2 days before their 100th anniversary. So imagine a 1,000-pound cheesecake being led by 20 Rovers. And then to even top that off, we had Jesse White and the Jesse White tumblers there.
So special.
Flying over our mascot, Big Slice. We had the Happiness Club, which is a group that Maureen and I support, and they were there. So we gave out about 8,000 slices of that cheesecake for the next hour after we cut the cake. And it was really a fun event. You know, we are the only vendor who's been in Taste of Chicago since the first one on July 4th, 1980. And it was just so great to be back in July. As you know, Taste of Chicago had 3 years when it was in September, right at the beginning of football season. But it was a great taste. It was safe. We had some great weather, some fireworks, drone show. We introduced new items, so we loved the taste. It was very successful. And then this past week was our other favorite event of the year, which is National Cheesecake Day.
Oh, of course.
Then we're at the Obama Center, DuSable Museum, Seneca Park, Eli M. Shulman Playground, and History Museum, giving out slices, delivering slices to caregivers at Lurie Children's and Prentice Women's Hospital. We had 46-cent slices in honor of our birthday here at our Eli's Cheesecake Cafe. So it was really fun. And, you know, we are so appreciative of Chicago, our home. You know, my dad had a dream to be able to create. Today, there's a Chicago-style cheesecake, which is Eli's. I mean, Eli created his own style of cheesecake, and 46 years later, how fortunate are we that we can be baking those cakes, all of them in Chicago, as a third-generation family business, and being able to celebrate events like your launch today.
And Mark, tell us more about your dad, the man who started it all.
Well, I'm so fortunate. I'm an only child. My father, Eli, was born in Chicago in 1910. His father passed away in 1926. He was a baker. Eli dropped out of high school, and in 1940 saw a foreclosure notice on the door of his neighborhood coffee shop on the west side of Chicago, signed a lease, got in the business, and that started a 50-year career in the restaurant business that took him to the north side, to Oak Street, where he had Eli's Stage Delicatessen with customers like a young Barbara Streisand.
Wow.
In 1966, he opened Eli's Place for Steak, now the site of Lurie Children's Hospital. It was there that he started to work on his cheesecake recipe. He wanted a great dessert for his customers. Eli's Cheesecake made its debut at the first Taste of Chicago in 1980. And it's great 46 years later that now it's a third generation company. Our daughter Alana, my wife Maureen, and I are able to share Eli's story and then go in the bakery and see our over 300 bakers creating wonderful desserts every day.
And it's so special that your daughter now is continuing on with this legacy. I know it's still 4 years away, but I imagine the wheels are already turning, thinking about that big 50th.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, I think we celebrate 50, 100, 150, but no, I think how fortunate we are, you know, since my dad, he had a dream, this signature dish to sell outside the restaurant. So 46 years later, and yes, as we planned for 50 years, how great it is. And we're grateful to the city for keeping Taste of Chicago, for bringing it back to July, and to have so many happy customers. And we just keep on innovating and really committed to our customers, the community, and great desserts.
Okay, I have a few more questions for you. What is the most popular sellout cheesecake that you make?
You know, it's still original, plain. The first, you know, that can be finished so many ways, but our turtle cheesecake, white chocolate, raspberry, in the last few years, s'mores has been added. My favorite and my wife's is chocolate chip, particularly when it's really cold. But I think today we make over 200 different desserts. Sometimes they could be in a different shape. We make a really great non-dairy cheesecake with tofu from Jenny Yang and Phoenix Bean. So we keep on innovating and creating, you know, great new desserts.
What's the next big event? Now that the taste is over, where can our viewers find you next?
Well, I think that the best way Monday through Saturday is to come to the Eli's Cafe. It's an Eli's Cheesecake World on the northwest side of the city in Forest Preserve Drive in Montrose. We have a dessert cafe there, a great outdoor patio through Labor Day. We grill lunch on Thursdays. And we have a great selection of Eli's. That's where you find also our Sweet Perfections, which are cakes that maybe are miscut. Something's off a little bit, but it's probably 80% off, and they're amazing desserts. So please come out to Eli's Cheesecake Cafe. I look forward to seeing you there. That's where we bake all our desserts. And, we'll continue to be busy throughout the summer. We support a lot of groups tonight. We'll be supporting the Happiness Club. They're performing at Seneca Park in the Eli Shulman Playground. So we'll be getting around, and we have some great customers in Chicago. Saw having Karine on from Mariano's, a great customer. Jules, a great customer. So if you're in Chicago, you got to get Eli's or visit us if you're traveling at O'Hare Airport in the United Terminal.
It is one of a kind. Mark Shulman, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for this beautiful celebration cheesecake.
Thank you.
We'll talk again soon. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be back after this 2-minute break with much more to cover. You're taking a live look outside at the Bean. It's a gorgeous day. Okay.
I'm Cassie Carlson, and to
Fox.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 1:30. We brought this to you yesterday, and we want to check back in on the trial of Lindsay Clancy. She is facing 3 counts of first-degree murder for allegedly strangling her 3 young children in Massachusetts back in 2023. Her defense argues that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis. There is a pediatric specialist on the stand right now.
From the Children's Hospital in Boston?
Yes.
And urine also collected from the Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital in Plymouth? Yes. And were screens done on the samples, namely the blood from BID Plymouth, the urine from BID Plymouth, and the blood from Children's Hospital? Yes. Were any substances detected on those 3 screens and the pediatric screen that you've just described to the jury? No, they were not. And as far as the next case, which would be laboratory number 23-01875, the decedent being Cora Clancy, you received some heart blood from the medical examiner's office post-mortem, correct? Yes. And as far as that, were those screening tests conducted in this case for Cora? Yes. And were there any substances detected? No, we did not detect anything. And as far as laboratory number 23-01874, which is the decedent Dawson Clancy, your unit received an item 1-101 of heart blood from Dawson Clancy, correct? Yes. And that was also post-mortem? Yes. And were those screening tests, those same 3 tests plus the pediatric test run for Dawson? Correct. Were any substances detected? No, they were not. And so where in each one of these 3 separate cases there was no detection of any substances, did you do anything further other than issue a report saying none detected? No. I reviewed the data and then I issued the report with the none detected results. There had been any positive findings, additional testing would have been conducted, correct? Yes, if we receive a positive screen, we will either perform confirmatory analysis or quantitative analysis, depending on the testing. And just as it pertains to these 3 cases, the samples received for Cal and Clancy, why did they come from a different source than the other 2? So the medical examiner sends us the samples. If the decedent is in the hospital prior to the autopsy, they will typically send us those hospital samples as well. They prefer to have the hospital samples tested because that date and time is usually prior to the decedent's death, and we can sometimes determine what sort of drugs or poisons may have been in that decedent's body prior to their death and before drugs may have been given at the hospital. And once these tests are conducted in the postmortem toxicology unit, the results, where are they sent to? They are sent to the medical examiner to go with their report. Thank you. Nothing further.
All right. Attorney Reddington. Questions? Thank you. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Attorney Sprague.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commonwealth calls Sherry Crook.
Stop right here. Raise your right hand to the clerk, please.
Good afternoon. You solemnly swear that the testimony and the evidence you shall give to the court and the jury is not enough to the common law to defend the charge, the truth, the whole truth. Thank you. You may have a seat, ma'am.
Watch your step, please.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Attorney Sprague, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Good afternoon. My name is Sherry Crook, Sherri, last name Crook.
What do you do for work?
I'm a supervisor in the crime scene response unit at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory in Lakeville.
And how long have you held that position at the lab?
I've been a supervisor in that unit approximately 18 years, and I've worked at the lab for 26 years.
Can you describe for us your educational background, please?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from UMass Dartmouth and a Master's of Science in Criminal Justice from Westfield State College.
And if you could just describe for us the nature of your work and your duties at the lab.
So my main job is a supervisor in the crime scene response unit. As a supervisor, I am a liaison for the state when crime scenes occur and a forensic scientist is needed. So I answer calls, figure out what type of services are needed. I then
get forensic scientists to respond to areas. I oversee generally the southern region, which would be Plymouth County, Cape and Islands, Norfolk, Bristol County, but I do take calls for the entire state. I oversee the forensic scientists that respond to my area. I technically review reports. I also am involved in the criminalistics unit, where I test and examine physical evidence for the presence of biological fluids. This would be blood, semen, and saliva, and trace materials, hairs, fibers, gunshot residues. These cases include fatal and non-fatal beatings, stabbings, shootings, sexual assaults, and motor vehicle accidents. We do the testing in the lab, similar to the testing at crime scenes.
And what type of training have you had to be qualified to be a forensic scientist in all these different areas at the lab?
So when I first began, I've always worked in the criminalistics unit. I went through a training process where I first observed trained chemists in the analysis of evidence. I then performed this analysis under the strict supervision of my supervisor. At the completion of each area that I was testing in, I took written and oral competency exams. So there's several areas in blood, semen, saliva that we take tests on to prove our proficiency.
And have you passed all of these competency tests?
I have.
And have you passed all of your proficiency tests?
I have.
Does your casework go through any type of review process?
It does. It goes through a technical review as well as an administrative review.
And have you had any specialized training in the field of forensics?
I have.
And what type of training?
So I first had training in the lab, and then I have had external training that has included bloodstain pattern analysis training, crime scene reconstruction training, and a microscope class.
And are you affiliated with any professional organizations?
I am. I'm a member of the IABPA, which is the International Association of Bloodstain Pattern Analysts.
And you've testified in court many times in the Commonwealth, correct?
I have.
Going back to what you talked about bloodstain pattern analysis, can you describe the training you've had in that field in particular?
So it first began with taking a 40-hour course in the basics of bloodstain pattern analysis. That was used in my original training at the laboratory. It consisted of a 40-hour course where we do experimentations, look at bloodstains, and prepare reports, as well as taking an exam at the end. So that was my original course that I took. I've since taken 7 other additional courses that include another basic bloodstain class. I've taken advanced bloodstain pattern classes. I've taken fluid dynamics of bloodstains, and I've also taken bloodstain classes on fabrics.
Now, do you undergo any continuing education after all of that training on bloodstain pattern analysis?
I do.
Can you describe that?
So we continually get training every year. We have to do at least 8 hours, which could be training from readings, attending a course, attending workshops that we have through the IABPA, some sort of educational trainings.
And is bloodstain pattern analysis, that discipline, is it accredited?
It is.
How so?
It was accredited through our lab during our accreditation in 2008. It became accredited for the Mass State Police Lab.
And is it still currently accredited?
It is.
And do you have to take proficiency tests specifically in bloodstain pattern analysis?
I do.
How often?
Take a yearly test from an outside vendor agency.
And have you passed all of those tests?
I have.
And have you testified in courts in the Commonwealth about bloodstain pattern analysis?
I have.
And how many times have you done that?
I've testified as an expert more than 10 times in Plymouth County, Bristol County, Norfolk County, and Cape and Islands.
What is a bloodstain?
A bloodstain is a deposit of blood on a surface.
And what would be a bloodstain pattern?
A bloodstain pattern is stains on the surface by which we look at it and identify how it was created.
So could you describe for us what bloodstain pattern analysis is?
So bloodstain pattern analysis is the examination of bloodstains and bloodstain patterns by which that they are deposited on a surface. We can give information about how the blood was deposited, as well as how the incident occurred to deposit those blood stains.
And are there different blood stains and blood stain patterns? And are there terms ascribed to those that tell you what kind of patterns they are or what kind of blood stains they are?
There are.
And what are some of the features and characteristics that you look at when you're performing your analysis to determine the type of stain or pattern?
So we look at specifically the size, shape, and the distribution of those stains. With looking at that information, we can tell you the how, what, when, where, and how things were created by looking at those stains. That information, the size, shape, and distribution will answer some of those questions.
Can you tell the direction of a blood stain pattern?
You sometimes can, yes.
And how do you go about doing that, and why is that important?
So in some stains, there is an identifying feature that we look for. It's called a tail. So when blood flies through the air and lands on a surface, it usually will land in an oval shape, an elliptical shape that may cause it to have a tail. The tail is an extension of that elliptical shape. We use that to identify the direction that the blood is traveling. So the tail will point in the direction that the blood was flying when it landed on a surface. So we can tell by that tail where that stain may have originated from.
And are there different categories of stains?
There are.
And what would those be?
We describe them as passive stains, transfer stains, and dynamic stains.
And could you define what those are?
Sure. So passive stains are stains where only the force of gravity is acting upon that stain. Some of the examples would be a drip stain, a flow, or a blood pool. We have transfer stains, which are stains that are created when a bloody object or body comes into contact with another surface, transferring that stain there. We have smears or wipes. And then for dynamic stains are where a outside force has been acted upon the blood. A forceful force that has projected the blood onto a surface, either by projecting it out or compression that projects the blood out. In that case, we have projected blood patterns, arterial spurts that term as dynamic stains.
And in your analysis, you use the word target.
Yes.
And what does that mean in blood stain pattern analysis?
So the target is the surface that the blood stain lands on. Could be a floor, a wall, anything that the blood stain lands on.
So for example, if I have a cut on my arm and blood drops to the floor as I'm just standing here, would that be a passive act and the target is the floor?
So yes, it'd be a passive act because just gravity is reacting with that blood, pulling it to the ground, and the floor would be the target surface that it landed on.
What is a drip stain?
So with that example, if you have a blood source, say I have a cut on my finger, I hold my finger out, gravity acts on that blood, pulling it to the floor, that would be a drip stain, a single stain hitting the floor due to gravity.
What would be a spatter stain?
So a spatter stain is a stain where some sort of force is acted on it. So if you think about my finger again, and the blood is coming out, if I apply force to my finger, if I flick it, the blood is now flying in the air and landing on a surface, say a wall. It will land in an elliptical shape, and it will be considered a spatter stain.
And are you familiar with the phrase cast-off pattern?
I am.
And what is that?
So a cast-off pattern is a collection of stains, usually elliptical or circular in shape. It's created when blood flies off of an object. So if you think of my finger again and the blood is coming out, if I take my finger and I swing it up over my head, the blood is going to release as it goes along, creating elliptical stains, circular stains, and more elliptical stains. The cast-off pattern is created in a linear form, so in a line of those stains.
And what is a transfer stain?
So a transfer stain is when a bloody object comes into contact with a surface. So you think of my hand, and I put it on the top here, and blood is left behind. I lift it up. That's a transfer stain of blood.
And what is a wipe?
So if you think of my hand, it's a transfer stain, a wipe is. You think of my hand and there's a blood pool on the surface and I run my hand through that blood pool. I'm wiping that blood, causing a wipe stain. The original stain, which is a blood pool, would now be called...
You were just listening to a forensic expert in the trial of Lindsay Clancy out in Massachusetts. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We have a lot more to cover in the next couple of hours. We'll be back after this quick break. Check out the skyline and the lake. Looks gorgeous.
When applying.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Let's go over some of our top stories right now. Just released from the Cook County Sheriff's Office, a 23-year-old man was found with a loaded gun during intake at the Cook County Jail. 23-year-old Philip Robinson now faces several felony charges when he was found to be hiding a loaded gun in his pants. Of course, it is protocol that incoming inmates are searched as they are booked into jail, and the Cook County Sheriff's Office actually provided us with an X-ray image, from one of their surveillance systems that scans people for this very type of thing, and we will have that for you later on at the news at 4 and 5. But again, 23-year-old Philip Robinson now facing additional charges after he was found with a loaded gun while being booked into the Cook County Jail. Also trending this evening, 2 women from Elmwood Park in Des Plaines have been charged after leading Oak Brook police on a high-speed chase on Saturday night. Authorities say one of those drivers reached speeds of more than 100 miles an hour before crashing. And Americans are being warned if they're traveling to Cuba to expect major disruptions because of the country's blackout crisis. That is according to officials. The U.S. Embassy in Havana says the country is currently experiencing a total power failure due to its electrical grid collapsing. Our officials are warning people who are traveling there to expect disruptions because of that. Well, here on Chicago Live, we like to bring you the latest, whether it's happening here at home or across the nation. Today, we want to take you out to Capitol Hill in D.C., where there is a Senate Judiciary Judiciary Subcommittee hearing on AI surveillance pricing. Senator Dick Durbin is there, and it is alleged that some AI companies are actually monitoring other individuals and charging them different prices based on the amount of money that they have. Let's listen in.
And our personal conversations, the risk of being ripped off is only poised to grow. This isn't just a hypothetical. Target app hikes the price when it knows you're in the store. DoorDash is developing technology to tailor recommendations based on how hungry you think it thinks you are. Travel sites like Expedia have charged users from high-cost cities more for identical hotel rooms. And Kroger's loyalty program uses your data to predict exactly how much money you make. A 2025 Federal Trade Commission report confirms that companies are already deploying surveillance pricing in major industries. But surveillance pricing isn't just unfair. It erodes transparency and predictability and makes it harder for families to budget, let alone comparison shop. As we do more of our shopping online and on our phones, we have no idea if we're being charged a different price than our neighbor. I'm often asked what consumers can do to protect themselves. But uncovering surveillance pricing requires comparing prices across users, devices, and locations all at once. That is a tough task for veteran researchers, yet alone ordinary consumers. The answer can't be to teach everyone how to beat the machine. We must set rules of the road so the machine plays fair. Clear and transparent prices are essential for a functioning capitalist economy. The good news is momentum is on the side of shoppers. This year alone, more than 40 bills in 24 states, red and blue alike, have been introduced and passed to curtail surveillance pricing. More than 3/4 of Americans support banning the practice entirely. It's not too late to preserve fair pricing in America. We can start by pricing products again rather than people. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Robert Hedges. Mr. Hedges formerly served as Visa's Chief Data Officer. He now works as a digital fellow at the MIT Initiative on the Digital Economy. Mr. Hedges, nice to have you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Hawley, Ranking Member Durbin, for the opportunity to be here today and talk about this very important topic. Yesterday, I submitted detailed testimony on how surveillance pricing works, the supporting data flows and tech stack, the major data ecosystem players, the history of patents and corporate acquisitions in the space, how to quantify the consumer harm, and a set of opportunities to best rein it in. In the available time this afternoon, I'd like to do three things. One, quickly explain how surveillance pricing works. Secondly, and very importantly, identify the key consumer behavior data elements and how they're collected and actually used. And then finally, spotlight what should be the priority policy solution. First, how surveillance pricing works. Retailers and digital platforms collect data about consumers from many sources, including shopping history, web browsing activities, locational data, inferred purchase intent, device type, battery life, mouse clicks, loyalty programs, and payment card activity. And they assemble and analyze it into a detailed view of consumers' priorities. The data is assembled in what is called an identity graph, mapping all the data that is collected about you into a single consumer profile. These detailed profiles know or infer your behavior, preferences, health conditions, relationship status, presence of children, countless other behavioral attributes. Your consumer profile can then be managed to produce signals about what a consumer might want. Signals project your future shopping needs, your brand loyalty, your typical shopping behavior, your sense of urgency to make a purchase, and your willingness to pay. That's the expression, your willingness to pay, AKA price sensitivity. The signals are used by marketers, advertisers, digital marketplaces, and retailers to inform their pricing strategy. As you would imagine, consumer behavior-based signals are valuable. The use of signals can increase the effectiveness of targeted advertising, strengthen the conversion rate on marketing leads, inform marketing messages to encourage purchase, and support surveillance pricing models. So what are those data elements? The inputs used by surveillance pricing models are quite specific. Willingness to pay is the data science and marketing analytics term used to characterize a consumer's price sensitivity. A high willingness to pay means the consumer is less price sensitive, really wants to purchase the product, has a strong urgent need, or simply declines to negotiate. A high willingness to pay suggests the consumer's desire for a product or service is not going to dampen by a higher price. In contrast, a low willingness to pay suggests price sensitivity. A consumer who has low willingness to pay is going to carefully comparison shop, look for better deals, ask for a discount, or simply leave the unpurchased item in their shopping cart. Signals regarding consumers' relative willingness to pay can be inferred using a variety of sources of consumer data. The relevant data can be sorted into several categories. Location, the zip code or internet address serving as a proxy for your income and buying power. Time of day, the time of day that your research, search, or shopping is occurring, reflecting how much thought and reflection you may be putting into the purchase. Purchase history, your account status, such as your purchase history with a retailer, your loyalty program participation, all measures of your commitment to a specific brand or product category. Digital access, your type of phone or computer, its operating system, and the fingerprint it leaves behind, which can help identify you. Shopping intent or referral source, the shopping search path that brought you to the desired product, such as a direct Google search for a specific model item, or coming from a coupon aggregator site where everyone's looking for a better deal. Shopping behavior cues, your trackable digital behaviors, such as how long you linger on a website, how often you return, the speed with which you maneuver through an online product catalog, and finally, the rate at which you abandon products in your digital shopping cart, all provide a measure of the consumer's sense of urgency. And finally, comparison shopping behavior, the number of product detail pages, or PDPs, that you open on a shopping journey signals active comparison shopping. Opening multiple PDPs indicates the consumer may be actively comparing products and features. These are all consumer behavior cues from which the willingness to pay can be inferred. Willingness to pay then becomes a variable in developing pricing strategies and tactics, and has been implemented across a wide range of retail and hospitality categories, including groceries, household goods, apparel, airlines, and hotels. Some of the technology to capture consumer behavior is relatively intuitive and straightforward. Other solutions are complex and highly technical. To track real-time consumer shopping behavior and derive their willingness to pay, retailers and digital platforms use an integrated stack of front-end data capture and real-time consumer profile integration strategies. No consumer would willingly supply personal data to third parties to be used against them. If a consumer was informed the data was being collected on them, their shopping and purchase patterns to be used in pricing models that sought to maximize retailers' profitability, the consumer would most certainly say no, which is probably why consumers are never asked. A formal requirement to secure consumer approval to collect and use consumer shopping behavior data in pricing models would probably kill the practice. Among the options to address the practice of surveillance pricing, the explicit regulation of consumer behavior data collection and the conditions for its use is the highest impact policy action. 3 specific steps should be pursued. First, implement focused regulation to change how consumer behavior data is allowed to be collected, mandating simple and clear disclosures about data collection and its use. Second, establish use case-specific consumer consent requirements for collecting the data. Make a consumer's informed consent be a requirement for using the data in pricing models. And finally, third, require retailers and digital platforms to inform the consumers that their pricing will not be derived from consumer behavior data unless a consumer agrees to it. A consumer would only be subjected to the collection of their behavior data for use in pricing models if they had affirmatively opted in for such a program. Unfettered access to consumer behavior data in the absence of requirements to obtain informed consumer consent before using it is the problem here. Our policy response should address the root cause of the surveillance pricing head-on. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to today's discussion.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Lee Hepner. Mr. Hepner is an antitrust lawyer and senior legal counsel for the American Economic Liberties
Welcome
Project.
back. You were just listening in to the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Counterterrorism, exploring how consumer habits, both online and in-store, are potentially leading to AI surveillance, tracking those habits, and in some cases, lawmakers say it could be driving prices. That is being led by Senator Dick Durbin. We'll bring you back to it if we feel that you should be listening in. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back after this break.
After an accident,
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Over the last several years, states have joined a growing list that has either banned or restricted abortions, primarily in the South and some parts of the Midwest. Illinois remains open for abortions. We do want to now bring in the Senior Director of Programs for the Chicago Abortion Fund, Megan Daniels. Thank you for being with us. You also help to run programming at CARLA, which stands for the Complex Abortion Regional Line for Access. I want to start there. Tell us a little bit more about what CARLA is.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. The Complex Abortion Regional Line for Access was created in 2023, about a year after the fall of Roe v. Wade, when we saw a growing number of patients with complex medical needs scrambling to access abortion care here in hospitals. People would travel miles and miles for care, only to learn at a clinic that they actually needed to be treated in a hospital. So suddenly they weren't just navigating getting abortion care, but navigating an entirely different healthcare system. So the Chicago Abortion Fund partnered with the Illinois Department of Public Health and 4 leading academic medical centers here in Chicago. That's the University of Illinois at Chicago, Rush University, the University of Chicago, and Northwestern, to build something new. We built a coordinated referral system that connects patients to hospital-based abortion care quickly, while our team on the Chicago Abortion Fund side provides individualized support to handle those financial and logistical barriers that could otherwise delay or prevent care altogether. So the Carla program really strengthens Illinois' healthcare system. And instead of every clinic and hospital trying to solve these complex referrals independently, it really creates one coordinated pathway that reduces delays, improves communication, and helps patients get the right level of care more quickly.
And talk a little bit about some of those complexities when it comes to seeking this type of care at a clinic and then realizing you actually need to be under much more serious care in a hospital.
Absolutely. So for many people, they may have medical complexities that they're learning of for the first time during this pregnancy or during this touch point of care. And many of these complexities are discovered and addressed in clinic when somebody gets ultrasound imaging, for example. These complexities can range from cardiac concerns to issues with the placenta in the pregnancy. And so what providers do when they coordinate with the Carla program is really match that patient with the care that's best for their individualized medical needs.
And we understand that over the last several years, more and more people are coming to Illinois from our neighboring states. Tell us a little bit more about what you've seen in the last year in particular, but the last several years in general.
Absolutely. So we know that the median distance out-of-state patients travel to get to care in Illinois has more than tripled since the fall of Roe v. Wade alone. But interestingly, Illinois residents actually make up our largest group of patients on the Carla team. But even traveling within our own state can mean hours on the road, multiple appointments, setting up childcare, time away from work, right? And many of these folks, regardless of where they're coming from, are leaving kids at home with loved ones, taking unpaid time off of work, and having to then navigate a hospital system that they've never encountered before.
And tell us a little bit more about those financial challenges that some women may face when it does come to seeking an abortion.
Absolutely. So hospital-based abortion care is incredibly expensive. Since launching Carla, CAF has committed more than $2 million towards abortion care in hospitals alone. And this expense accounts for roughly 1/4 or 25% of our total spending on abortion funding. And we've also spent over $1 million on some logistical supports that are associated with getting abortion care, whether it's flights, trains, rental car, gas money, meals, prescription costs, and childcare. These costs really add up. They can become barriers to care itself. And so does the stress of making all these arrangements in order to get abortion care. And that's why Chicago Abortion Fund is here.
And tell us a little bit more about some of the resources the Chicago Abortion Fund offers, even if it is just starting with a phone call, perhaps, someone who needs some guidance and direction.
Absolutely. So we have a dedicated, brilliant, multidisciplinary team of support coordinators, program managers, and directors across the entire organization. And then we have 5 full-time staff here on the Carla team in Chicago Abortion Fund. We also have 2 nurse coordinators. So when somebody gets referred to Carla, when a clinic or a provider determines that somebody needs that hospital-based abortion care, they refer them to the program. And then one of those 2 nurse coordinators reaches out the very same day, often within that hour, and identifies the best hospital for them to schedule at based on their needs. And at the same time, we step in to coordinate funding and practical support. So those things I mentioned before, like travel, lodging, childcare, and meals, so that patients can really focus on their health. We have grown our relationships with Illinois providers, especially over the last year, and set up pantry programs at some of our independent clinics. So the range of resources we offer when people get care here in Illinois has really expanded over the last year.
And when was the Chicago Abortion Fund created?
We are celebrating our 41st birthday this fall. We just had our 40th anniversary last year.
4 decades.
Yes.
Megan Daniels, thank you so much. Anything else that you want to share with our viewers?
We're just so proud of this program, honestly. It's pushed us to build out our programming, keeping patients at the center. And these initiatives grew directly from listening to patients and addressing these barriers to care. And that's what Chicago Abortion Fund does. We don't just pay for the care, but we work with hospitals, providers, and state partners to build stronger systems that improve access to care here in Illinois.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We'll be back after the break to talk about some cybersecurity threats the U.S. is facing. And here's a look at the Chicago River. Looks like an architectural boat tour is just getting started. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We are tracking all sorts of stories here today. We have a lot more to get to, but first, let's take a look at the stock market. The Dow leaps 1,000 points. That's been fueled by earnings and hopes for a deal with the Strait of Hormuz open for just about another hour or so before it closes at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be back after the break. We promised you we'd have a conversation about cybersecurity threats. This after at least seven wastewater plants across the U.S. were breached with a cybersecurity attack. We'll be chatting with an expert coming up. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Since the end of July, at least 7 states have experienced cyber attacks targeting their water and wastewater systems. We want to bring in now an expert from the Privacy Bee, CEO of Privacy Bee, Harry Moggins. Thank you so much for being with us. He's a cybersecurity and digital surveillance expert. Now, some of these attacks officials say can be attributed to the war in Iran. I want to start there. Thank you so much for joining us. But when you first hear about these attacks on these wastewater systems in late July, what went through your mind?
Unfortunately, it's inevitable, right? With budgets being cut everywhere, companies that have a high exposure or a high amount of impact they can have to civilization, like water treatment facilities, they're targeted more often, and with budget cuts, they usually have less cybersecurity and less defenses. Same as education and other similar industries like that. It's unfortunate, but I think it's inevitable.
And officials are pointing to perhaps these attacks stemmed from Iran. Do you think that is a plausible source?
So personally, I do. I don't. I know no group has taken responsibility yet. It's still not confirmed anyway, but I know in 2023 there was a similar attack on the water systems of Pittsburgh, and it was confirmed that Iran was behind the attack, according to the CIA anyway. So it's likely they're trying again, but this particular time has not been confirmed yet.
And as that war escalates, hoping for a peace deal soon, but how is the U.S. preparing for cyber attacks, and how should companies and schools and hospital systems be gearing up in the event that there is a breach?
So the best solution is bringing on better cybersecurity technologies. AI is making it easier than ever to compromise companies, and the defensive capabilities do exist, but they're very expensive, unfortunately. Since budget, especially for public sector organizations, are usually tight, the best thing is education. I think if they can invest in teaching the employees of these water treatment facilities or water facilities, it's not always a technical exploit. Oftentimes it's a human exploit, and we don't know how they got in this time. The vast majority of these type of attacks are from an employee giving a two-factor code or falling for a fake link, or it's called phishing in a lot of cases. Those human-based attacks are getting harder to detect because AI makes everything seem so realistic. Whereas years ago, you could look for misspellings or look for logos that are skewed or off, that look, the colors are off, things like that. Nowadays, it's harder than ever to detect what's real from what's a scam.
Recently, I covered a story out of Evanston. Evanston Township High School was essentially taken offline during a cyber attack, and it seemed that it was a phishing email that was opened by someone in the district that then led the attacker to gain entry into the system. Walk us through, for our viewers at home, how this can affect people on a personal level. You mentioned those phishing emails, and yes, they are getting so much harder to detect just in our everyday email inboxes.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. The first is the AI technology is allowing the bad guys to replicate real communications so perfectly and so effectively. If English is not the first language of a lot of these nation states that harbor attacks oftentimes, so simple English oddities or using strange words in certain contexts can be a hint or a clue. Well, that's all gone now. What we spent the last 10 years teaching everybody to watch for as the red flags of scam communication, we can no longer lean on. There's always the things like urgency. If there's an email that comes in or a text message that comes in that you have to act right now, or there's some time limit, that is a red flag. But the other side of it is the data broker industry is fueling a lot of this, where before it was a mass email or a mass text trying to fish for a person to click a link. Well, now they can buy data on the person's name, the address, where they live. They can buy their cell phone number and then send a text that's so unbelievably personalized, it couldn't possibly be a scam. They know everything about me. And those are harder to detect because, an email, you can look at the from address and track if it came from a .gov or .edu. Texts are more difficult because you don't always have the phone numbers of your local water, company or your college always saved in your phone. So it's harder than ever to fight back, but the best step is just stay vigilant, take a breath, double check things, and don't respond to direct outreach, whether you're an employee of a company like the water company here, or if you're just a normal person who's, trying to fend off all the scams trying to steal your money or your data every day.
And this next one that I want to ask you about is one that's been around for a bit, but perhaps it is also becoming more sophisticated with AI, but is those phone call scams where someone calls you from what appears to be the phone number of someone that is saved in your contacts, and they claim that they are with this person, that you need to provide money. It's essentially asking for ransom. How is AI contributing to making those calls more sophisticated?
Great question. It's absolutely terrifying.
It really is.
People think caller ID is a fact. It's not. It is possible to forge caller IDs. So a lot of the bad guys, they'll know they can use different software and techniques to call your phone, but make it seem like it's coming from another number. And if that number is in your contacts, it's going to show up on your phone ringing as that person's name from your contacts, because your phone is receiving the caller ID from your cell phone company as a number. Your phone itself translates that number to the name you have saved in the phone. So if they can forge a number of somebody you know, again, buying it through a data broker or finding it on a people search site on Google or social media, they know you are friends with this person, or your son or daughter is this, or your parent is this name. They take the name, they look up their phone number, and they spoof the call or text to you from that number, which on your phone will show up as that person. That's the first step. It's very possible. The second step, it only takes 13 seconds of an average video for most modern AI systems to clone a voice.
Wow.
13 seconds. Which means if you have a video of a birthday of a friend or a parent or a child, they can probably pull enough from it to, or any kind of event, to replicate that voice. They know the individual because, again, data brokers, and they can craft this very, very terrifying and highly believable attack it's hard to defend, which is why one of the best things to fight back is you're hearing it more and more because it's one of the best defenses. Create a password, a family code, some keyword or phrase that only you and your family or you and your closest friends know. And if anything's suspicious, if there's ever any kind of red flags or emergencies or arrests or something that's could be bad, ask them for the code. Takes a couple seconds, ask them for the password of the phrase, and it could save a lot of stress.
Great advice. Now, I'm sure you as well, but we all get so many of those spam phone calls each and every day. What do you suggest? Do we just ignore them, block them? A lot of times we've heard about people answering and then hackers using our voice in those cases as potential for future cloning issues there.
Absolutely. If you think about it, say you're trying to scam somebody and a friend or a family member you want to replicate, you want to try to be that person in the fake call. If you can't find that video online I was talking about, the next best thing, you have their name, you have their phone number, you have everything on them. So why not call them and try to get them into a conversation? You can use that conversation to create the voice model that then can be used to fool the loved one or the friend or family member. So 100%, that's a very common way of training the voice models. The best thing to do is if you get an incoming call or a spam call or an unusual text is do not respond. If you respond, if you try to opt out or tell them to stop calling and hang up, it's not going to offend them and they're not going to go off and cry. They're going to learn you actually answer your phone. You respond. It's a live number and it connects.
Yeah. Great advice. Just ignore it.
Just ignore it. Unless you want to move to a cabin in the middle of the woods and throw your phone in the lake. That might be the best option.
I know, because they keep on coming. Let's switch gears now to California's enforcement of this drop privacy platform. Tell me a little bit about that, and is it something you see being picked up by other states?
I think so. I think drop is California has a history of being very progressive in their privacy legislation, which is amazing. You know, they had CCPA, which was the first privacy legislation to hit the U.S. It was replaced by CDPR. I'm sorry, another one. I can't remember the acronym.
No worries.
There's been a couple of them. And since then, a lot of other states have replicated that, trying to create their own versions of the privacy law. And obviously, DROP Act is the new evolution of the CCPA-style legislation. But this expands it, where now data brokers have to register in California. And if a resident of California goes and submits their request through their job portal, the data broker is supposed to comply and remove the person from these data broker databases. It's a great act in concept. The law is moving in a really good direction. I think other states will take it on. I think federal, there's some conversation that hopefully will move to the federal level. I don't believe it's effective in its current state, though. Last I heard, I think 23% of data brokers are logging in. So I think there's a current air of non-enforcement that a lot of companies are just, they're getting the request to delete it. But either the data broker thinks, oh, I'm overseas and immune, or come after me, California, it's not going to work. There's a lot of disbelief there. So there are some holes, there are some gaps, but I think conceptually it's a great step forward to what a lot of people need. Because the more we can remove people from data brokers, the better.
And you mentioned something interesting there, that there are some states where these hackers are essentially immune. They can't really be brought over, prosecuted. Tell us a little bit about why that makes this so challenging to find these groups that are causing these hacks, initiating them, and to stop them.
Sure. So this is what we do every day at PrivacyBee, right? We're going out to these data brokers. We're trying to delete our customers from it. In the U.S. data brokers, like Axiom or Epsilon or the big guys, they're always in compliance. They respect it because they're a U.S. company with actual offices and actual employees, and they have shareholders, and they have to do it legally. And the laws, oftentimes, depending on the state, do require them to delete people who want to be deleted. The challenging ones are the ones that are overseas. For example, there are Belarus is a hotspot. There's a couple that are based over there. If you send them a request and they choose to ignore it, it's very difficult because no U.S. legislation will apply to a Belarusian data broker, right? Even GDPR in Europe, one of the strongest privacy laws that's out there, doesn't apply. Well, it applies, but you're going to get a judgment against an entity that's just going to ignore you forever. Or if you do, it's assuming you can track them down in the first place. A lot of these data brokers are hiding behind cloaks and shadows, and you can't easily figure out the human or the person behind the company. They operate just as a .com, and everything's anonymous. So how do you escalate that to a legal battle? And again, this is what we fight day in, day out. It's very, very difficult. And I think, again, the DROP Act is a great step to bring that battle to, a spotlight and hopefully and eventually to a national privacy legislation. But a big challenge we're going to have is the same as any kind of lawsuit. When you have a claim against an international company, it's a hard battle to fight.
Harry, before I let you go, give our viewers some fast facts on what they can do today that won't take too long, but just a few steps to help protect their privacy and the privacy of their families.
Sure. So I'm biased, but signing up for PrivacyBee is one of the best things you can do because that's the battle we fight on behalf of our customers every single day. Beyond that, freeze your credit and freeze the credit of your children. A recent trend we've seen is a lot of scammers going after the social security numbers of children because if they are able to get it through a fake school email or through the Trump accounts with the retirement fund for children now, if they can get you to disclose a social on a fake site, they realize they have a 10-year head start on identity theft for a child. They can make a lot of money in those 10 years before you even notice it. And most people don't realize you can even freeze the credit of your children. So that's a very common scam we're seeing. And then beyond that, just take a moment. Whenever you get an email or a text message or something that seems urgent or seems scary, don't respond to it. Pause and double check through an official source because that couple seconds, 30 seconds of double checking could save a lot of time and money.
Harry Moggins, the CEO of PrivacyBee, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Talk again soon. Thanks. You know, going back to the story I mentioned out of Evanston, when Evanston Township High School's system was breached in a ransomware attack, we talked to another expert who said that educational institutes, rather, are one of the top targeted sectors, and it's for the very reason that Harry was just talking about, because there is so much information of teens, of kids in those systems who don't have credit yet, who don't really have a financial history yet. And unfortunately, a lot of these hackers, they'll take that information and create these fraudulent accounts. That is why so many companies are working against this, officials in the FBI and other government agencies working to target these hackers and stop the attacks before they begin. It's 2:31 here. Stay with us on Chicago Live. A check of the forecast is next.
In life,
Welcome back to Chicago Live. We are now joined by our colleague JD Rudd to talk a little bit about the forecast. It looks to be, we're looking out the window here, it looks to be a pretty gorgeous day.
This, I think, by August standards, pretty good day overall. It's not super cool. It's not super hot. It's not super humid. It's not very windy. It's not raining. It's not storming today. This is good.
It's not super of anything. It's just kind of there.
This is Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's just right.
Yes.
You're looking at an image of the skyline, one of our cameras out there, and the water today, it's so gorgeous. It's nice and light blue there. I love when it looks like the Caribbean like that.
Yes, if you squint your eyes, you're not in Chicago anymore.
Yeah, just pretend. There's another shot.
Yeah, it's a great day to own a boat or to befriend somebody who owns a boat. That way you don't have to do the cleaning or the upkeep on the thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Just offer to run some errands, get some groceries for the boat ride, and you're good to go.
Absolutely. A lot of folks are in town, I know. It's just because it's Chicago and it's a great weather day. It's August here, so folks who are out there enjoying things are certainly soaking it all up. Boat rides, walking around, sightseeing. There's always something new popping up. I think right there in the corner, on the right side of the corner, that's the new Hello Kitty Cafe.
Yes, it is.
Which everybody's so excited to get to. I know my wife and daughter are itching to wait in line for multiple hours to get in themselves.
Are they going to go? Do they have plans?
There are soft plans. We don't have a date, but there are some plans to go wait in line and see the Hello Kitty Cafe.
Someone I know took her daughters and waited a very long time.
Listen.
But hey,
it's the only one in the USA. It's in the continental 48. This is it. So
this is the one. And actually, they will be joining Chicago Live later this week with Jake Hamilton. So that'll be exciting to hear.
What day? I got to be here.
I think it's tomorrow. We'll double check on that.
Wow.
We'll double check on that for you. But, you know, a lot of people here are still here after their trips from Lollapalooza, who came in from across the nation. So they got a good day yesterday and today following really kind of a rainy weekend.
Yeah, I heard the one girl's still stuck in the mud. They haven't got her out of there yet. I mean, listen, when you're in that moment, it's the worst. It stinks. It's awful. You're like, why? But then over time, when you look back, what a memory.
It's a fun experience.
I mean, we can think back to all the images that came out of like Woodstock when that first launched years ago. People have such great memories of that. Lala always gives good memories, but when you can add that extra little bit of something special, which the rain was, the mud, the gunk, the things that were lost, it makes it memorable.
Yeah, I have a couple neighbors down the hall from us, and their shoes are still outside their door, covered in mud. I figured they are probably still recovering.
I'm willing to bet in 30, 40 years, they're going to dig up parts of the bottom part of the park and find all these shoes that are just buried.
Oh, no, certainly.
Things were lost forever.
Yeah.
On that same note, with the rain that we picked up over the weekend, it was soggy for some. We may have more of that coming as we hit tomorrow into tomorrow night. So I've got a spiel to unleash on you here.
Yes, please.
Let me first start with this, how things look outside. We'll take you out and show you the bean, how things are right now. If we have, there it is. There's all the folks gathering around the bean, enjoying themselves. Temperature-wise, it is not bad by any means at all. We're in the mid-80s right now with the dew point at 64. It's a little muggy, but it's not bad. Feels like 86. We're dry today. We're dry this evening, but Casey, here's what I'm watching. See that little, it's a smattering of activity there across Iowa. It doesn't look very robust right now, but that's part of the storm system coming our way for late tonight into tomorrow. Now, to kind of set you up here, this graphic I'm going to show you might look scary at first, but this is the excessive rainfall outlook. This is not severe weather. This is excessive rainfall.
Okay.
Translated differently, potential for flash flooding. And we're in a level 2 out of 4 risk for tomorrow, as there may be some localized downpours. There might be some minor flooding in those areas that tend to be susceptible to high water. If you got clogged drains or something like that already, clean those things out. If you got a sump pump, check that thing. Make sure everything's good to go there, because there may be some times of some heavy rain as we go into tomorrow morning primarily, and again tomorrow evening. So I've tried to break this down in a timeline fashion for you here of what to expect and when. Tonight we should be dry until about 10 p.m. and then after that in our far northern, northwestern areas, some pockets of rain and thunder may work their way in. I really think the sweet spot here, where I've kind of put the red light on, the caution light, is for tomorrow morning, and it's going to impact the morning drive for many Chicagoans. 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pockets of heavy rain and some embedded thunderstorms. Now, there is a small risk of severe weather tomorrow in a few of our counties. I'm not going to hone in on that directly, because if we do get a severe storm, there might be some small hail, maybe some wind gusts 55 miles per hour. I don't think the traditional severe components are the thing tomorrow. Hail, damaging wind gusts, tornadoes. That's not the main thing. It's the water. It's the flooding potential, the heavy rain. Now, that said, we should get a window of time in the afternoon tomorrow to dry things out. Fingers are crossed based on the newest data before more showers and a couple of rumbles come in as we head toward tomorrow evening. So again, the one area I would highlight would be tomorrow morning for that potential for some heavy rain and thunderstorms. Now, I'll show you the 7-day forecast, because we've got rain in there for tomorrow, obviously, but some of this could linger into the early morning hours of Thursday. I'm thinking most of Thursday afternoon is on the dry side. And then we head toward the weekend, where things, by and large, are looking to stay dry, which is critical, because we have a big event coming up over the weekend.
Yeah, so this weekend, there are tons of events. Next weekend, Aaron Water Show will be here. The Blue Angels would have been performing, but they have business to attend to. So it will be the Thunderbirds again, who came last year. So this takes place August 15th and 16th, but practice day is that Friday, which is always a fun one to see. We'll hear them buzzing around here.
I was going to say, if I can give you a hack on anything,
Yeah.
Go go listen to the practice. Go watch the practice. It's almost as good as the actual air show.
Completely. It is
less people.
So entertaining.
Yes.
And yeah, you get a sneak peek of everything. And sometimes they make even a couple runs, whereas the day,
the actual show,
shows, it's, it's showtime. It's one and done.
It's one show and that's it.
So it is a really fun event. So many great spots around the city to watch, from North Avenue Beach, theater on the lake. You've got some rooftops down here on Michigan Avenue. So really a fun event, and hopefully good weather.
Well, it should be decent in terms of temperature because we are in the month of August. This is statistically where things start to kind of be the peak of their warmest and edge their way back down. I don't foresee, as of right now, any major cool downs coming. We can get a cool day if we've got prolonged clouds and rain, but I think we should be in good shape as we hit the middle part of the month. And I think the next handful of days, it'll be on the warmer side, all things being equal.
Before I let you go, I want to ask a little bit about rainfall. Where do we stand right now? Have we kind of leveled out in terms of, I know we're still early August here.
We've seen some months here, it's been surprising. It's about every 3 months where the rainfall has been well below normal for the month, and then the following month we pick things back up. We got a soggy stretch there as we closed out July and started this month, so we're actually above where we should be in the short term. Overall, we're not running that far above average for the totality of the year. So this is where numbers can be interesting in how you spin them, because you look at that and you go, well, wait a minute, how are we not that far from it? And we've had all these soaking, flooding rain events. It's the timing of them and getting hit with them so quickly. We saw that over the weekend with Lollapalooza. May see that again in some cases tomorrow. A lot of water in a small amount of time isn't a good thing, but to take ourselves out of the city aspect for a second, you think of all the farmers, all the ranchers, all the fields and things like that. It's a blessing and a curse. These folks, I know from experience, need rain at certain times of the year and in certain spells. To say, oh yeah, I'm above normal or I'm near normal on water isn't the full story. It's how frequently are you getting it and how impactful is that? So we could always use more rain in some cases. Other folks would say, no, we've had enough. We're done. I'm tired of the flooding concerns.
And of course, after last week's tornadoes, a lot of people are still picking up the pieces. I mean, this is a long process, especially for those who unfortunately lost their homes or have been displaced. It could take months, even more than a year, to really fully recover from that. So I'm sure in their case, they're hoping no more severe weather comes their way.
And it's difficult too. And again, to peel back the curtain a little bit, knowing some folks who dabble in the insurance world, those things take time. I mean, a storm comes through, someone's home is upended, their life has changed, they file an insurance claim. It takes weeks, it takes months to get things moving and going. What are you doing in that meantime? You're still trying to maybe pick up some pieces, do something, and then another storm comes through, another catastrophe happens, then what? What do you have to show for that? It's tough for those folks who are still working through everything.
Yeah, you're just trying to catch up, and then another one hits. Kind of like what happened in Kankakee in, I think it was February. They had that tornado hit, and then very soon after, another one came through. Well, JD, thank you so much for being with us. It's great to chat with you as always, and we will see you tomorrow.
Yes, I'll be back in tomorrow, and Emily's in for the rest of our programs as we go throughout the afternoon and the evening.
All right, there you go. And there's a beautiful shot of the lake. Not as many boats out there as I would have thought, but I guess it is a Tuesday, so people do have to work.
They were out this past weekend. They'll save for this coming weekend.
They'll recover and they'll gear up for this Saturday. That's right. All right, JD, thank you.
Of course.
Great news.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Yesterday on our show, we brought you out to the White House, where President Trump was in the Oval Office signing an executive order to support spouses of military families. We want to bring in now Courtney Sanders, who is the executive director of the Blue Star Families Chicagoland chapter. Thank you for being here, Courtney.
Thank you for having me, Casey. We really appreciate you shining a light on our military families.
Thank you. So just to start, give us a little bit of a look, as far as you know, at what this executive order aims to do.
Well, the first thing that we know that we does is it recognizes the importance of military spouses and the entire family, and families to readiness. Family readiness it's a military readiness issue, and strong military families are the foundation to the strong all-volunteer force of our military.
And tell us a little bit more about your organization. How many chapters there are across the U.S. and your mission?
Thank you. Yes, we have about 14 chapters right now throughout the United States, although we are growing rapidly to 28 in the next 3 years. We are the largest national nonprofit serving military and veteran families, and we're really excited to be able to put out our military family lifestyle survey right now. It is the largest military family lifestyle survey outside of the Department of Defense, and we use that to identify the pain points of our military and veteran families so that we can try to direct programming to alleviate some of those pain points. We're fielding that study right now and really encourage anyone who's military connected and 18 years or older to please fill out that survey so that we can identify those pain points and try to alleviate them for you.
And what is the significance of supporting not just our veterans and our members of the military, but their significant others and their families as well?
Yeah, you know, deployments and military culture, military families serve too. It's not just the service member. If that service member ends up being deployed, the family's left back home to kind of figure it out in a different way without that service member present. And, you know, we don't recognize often how many of our community members or our neighbors are actually connected to military families. Only 1% of America serves. And so it's really important for the other 99% of everyday Americans to recognize and support our military families.
And tell us a little bit about some of the families that you have helped, perhaps some of the stories that have particularly touched your heart, just in your experience working with some of these local families.
You know, there's so many stories. I could tell you, I can think of one in particular. We are connected to an Illinois National Guard unit who was deployed. We got connected with them prior to them deploying, and we did a yellow ribbon ceremony for them. And we stayed connected with those families throughout the deployment, and it ended up being a year-long deployment. On the other side, on the happy side, we were able to be there and be a part of some of those reunions, which was extremely special to see those families reunited again. And from a personal perspective, now seeing those families as a whole unit participate in our activities and our programs is really heartwarming.
Absolutely. This executive order aims to help create policies that will support military families in housing, employment, education, other facets of life as well. What do you think that will do for these families and the spouses in particular?
Yeah, you know, the military spouses is really a focus for us. And we know that 43% of military spouses in our Blue Star Families 3-year military spouse employment study held advanced educational credentials. 23% of them, however, are underemployed, and 70% of employed spouses are unemployed, and 70% of employed spouses report being underemployed. It's really challenging for military spouses as they're moving and having to start over every couple of years to find, you know, solid employment. And when they don't have solid employment, it leads to a loss of income for the family. And so it becomes a domino effect for the entire family unit. And that bleeds into the community with resources that are needed and things of that nature. So it is really important, you know, that we're paying attention to the entire family unit and not just the service member.
Absolutely. Recently, I did a story about hidden heroes and, you know, the hidden hero being the spouse of a military member. And it is so important to shine a light on, of course, the service that our military members are providing, but also those behind the scenes who are their support system at home.
Yes, and I will tell you, you talked about the hidden heroes, and that is an often term related to military and veteran caregivers. And we are actually working with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation this year and putting on our second annual Caregiver Summit that will be happening at Cantini on October 24th.
That's
we
wonderful.
recognize here in Chicagoland and at Blue Star Families that caregiver support for our military families is also something that is incredibly important and incredibly needed. And so specifically here in Chicagoland, we're paying attention to that. And we are, again, going to be hosting our second annual Military and Veteran Caregiver Summit on October 24th at Cantini. And that is being supported again by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation as well as the McCormick Foundation.
Courtney, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Can anyone get involved in that? If this hits home for them, are they able to register for that event?
Absolutely. If you are a military connected individual, regardless of what part of the family you're in, we want to support you through Blue Star Family Chicagoland. So we encourage you to go to bluestarfam.org and sign up to be a member. Membership with us is free. Once you're signed up, you're going to join our neighborhood and you can join our Chicagoland chapter. You'll be able to see all of the events and activities that we have coming up throughout the rest of the year. We have Welcome Week, which is coming up to welcome all of our new military and veteran families to the community at the end of September. We also have a Stars, Stripes, and Holiday Wishes program around the holidays. So we have many activities that are still coming, and we hope to see some new members that come through this way.
Courtney, thank you for being with us and offering insight on this important topic.
Thank you so much again for shining a light on our military families.
Thanks, Courtney. That was Courtney Sanders with the Blue Star Families organization. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We'll have a check of headlines from Lauren Scafidi coming up after the break. And we've got to keep showing you this skyline shot because it really is so gorgeous out there today. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We have just about another hour together before we turn things over to the news at 4 and 5. And our very own Lauren Scafidi, anchor of the news at 5, is joining us now to give us a little bit of a sneak peek on what you've got cooking for the news at 5. Hey, Lauren.
Hey there, Casey. We just jumped out of our meeting at 2 o'clock to decide, what exactly is going on this afternoon, who's going to be covering what. And boy, oh boy, we have stacked shows as always tonight. I want to start out with a really tough one. Our Brett Bagansky is covering 2 kayakers who were missing, and their bodies were just found near Door County, Wisconsin. More specifically, this is Washington Island. We know that they were 2 20-year-olds. They were from South Elgin, and this started a little bit earlier. Sunday's rescue efforts turned into a recovery mission. So we're going to have some more information coming up on both of those people a little bit later this evening. Just a really, really tough story there, one that we've been following for a while. Our Jody Lum is covering Wishbone closing. Now, this is a restaurant that has just been a West Loop staple for decades. We are talking 36 years in the making. Now, I want you to think back to 36 years ago. We're talking 1990, just to bring a little bit of context to you. We're talking Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby was on the Billboard Top 100. Home Alone came out. George H.W. Bush was president. I mean, really think about all the things that have happened in the last 36 years. This restaurant has been standing, has been a staple. So many celebrities visiting this spot. We won't name drop, but quite a few celebs walking through there and dining. I pulled up their website a little bit earlier, and a page comes up as soon as you open it up, and it says that they started on a shoestring budget, and it has been an extraordinary ride. So if you haven't been over there, now is your chance to go out there. They're hoping to stay open until the end of August, but they said that timeline could change. So Joni is going to have a little bit more about that coming up on our shows tonight. The budget director resigning, Annette Guzman, that's been a huge story that we're following. And we're finally hearing from City Council. They're saying that this is really just the latest name in a list of names to resign from Mayor Johnson's administration. And they say that this is pretty bad timing. Not that it's ever a good time, but this is especially bad timing now that the city is getting ready to put together the budget for next year. So critics say that, there's a lot going on. You've got this shakeup. You've got some other missed revenue targets that have happened this year. It's all raising questions about how this is going to shake out, how the mayor is going to close an expected $1 billion budget gap and keep the city's finances on track. So we're going to have a little bit more about that this afternoon as well. Just run through a couple other quick things. Chicago man is facing some more felony charges after authorities, Casey, found a loaded gun in his pants while he was being processed at the Cook County Jail. We saw the X-ray photo for this, and it kind of dropped all of our jaws.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have that.
And our viewers will see that X-ray image on the news at 4 and 5, to think that someone was heading into the jail and attempting to bring in a loaded gun, knowing that they would be searched and seemingly still attempting to get that in. Just so disturbing. But thankfully, those correctional officers did locate it. And as you mentioned, Lauren, now this person is facing another set of charges because of that.
Yeah, definitely. So that was one that kind of all had us talking today in our meeting. So we've got that. And let's just end it on a good note if we can, Casey. Maybe not a good note, but a surprising note. This one was really, really shocking. I want to take you to Wisconsin for this last one. So we're talking a Cabela's store. Okay. So Cabela's is that fishing and hunting store. And it's kind of everywhere. This is about 40 minutes northwest of Milwaukee. So a guy, he's 69 years old. He said that there was just too much traffic to drive his car.
Oh no, Lauren, where is this going?
Helicopter. Have you seen this, Casey?
No.
So he said that there was just too much traffic. Obviously the police officer is like, excuse me. Well, checked his license and everything. I mean, there was nothing against the law. So this guy got away without a ticket. He just landed the chopper right in the middle of the parking lot and all was good.
I guess that's one way to get there if you're trying to beat the traffic, right? And was this his personal chopper?
Yeah, I have so many questions. I want to know where the helicopter came from. Like, where does he live that he just couldn't handle the traffic?
Right.
I want to know what he got from Cabela's. Was it worth the trip?
Maybe he was going out of town and packing for his own trip, and he needed to expedite this process somehow. I hope we learn more about his errand that he ran.
You have all of the same questions that I do, girl. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. But that one made me chuckle.
Oh, that is funny. Thank you so much, Lauren. Always great to chat with you. And we will tune in later today on the news at 4 and 5.
We'll see you then. Thanks so much, Casey.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. We want to turn now to Madison. There is a protest underway following the recent police shooting of Corey Ruiz. This happened on July 22nd. Since that shooting, an encampment was set up in the area where the shooting unfolded. It has been up since then, but today, local officials and police dismantled that encampment. Let's take a moment. Let's just listen in here as it appears the protesters are now marching kind of in a square here around this intersection. Let's take a quick listen in.
What'd you say, Dwayne? Not just yet. She did just get here though. I gotta check in like 30 seconds. She was out here. She came back. She was tired. What's her like hair color? Short. Her hair is brown, like it's like a short.
And we're seeing that police made at least 10 arrests earlier today as they were attempting to clear out and dismantle that encampment. It seems to be quiet, peaceful now. Earlier today, though, there are reports that some of the protesters were hurling rocks at police and that there were multiple fires that had been started in that area. Again, at least 10 people arrested as police tried to dismantle this encampment. It was formed following the fatal police shooting of Corey Ruiz back in July, on July 22nd. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be back after this break.
For most people,
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Earlier today, we took you out to Capitol Hill, where a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing was underway to discuss AI surveillance and how consumers are potentially being monitored. And in some cases, price hikes are implemented based on what we're searching online and what we're viewing and which websites we're going to. Let's listen in.
And I also want to point out
that in their marketing materials, a lot of the companies selling this technology, they market it as GDPR compliant. And so I think some of the data privacy protection that we have is actually thanks to the European Union and actually not US law that's currently protecting some of the even more egregious practices that the technology is capable of doing.
I think the other laws, and I'm repeating what's already been pointed out, I think the other set of laws that are potentially applicable here are antitrust laws. In the real estate market, for example, some of the companies' use of AI to communicate with each other almost instantaneously to raise prices between companies has been met with legal challenges, and particularly in a market, come back to the airlines, where there's been a lot of consolidation. There are more opportunities for this kind of collusion. So again, I want to thank the chairman for having this hearing and all of you for your good work, and I'm sure we're going to be talking. Thank you.
There's just one more thing that I'd like to get on the record factually. Dr. Owens, if I could just ask you about it. I want to ask you about a patent, an actual patent that the Walmart Corporation has. This is a patent for a shopping cart, and I think we have a graphic to this effect. This is a patent for a shopping cart. There it is, that uses sensors to track the speed of your cart, your heart rate, your body temperature, and then feeds it into a server for analysis. I emphasize this is not a joke. This is not, AI didn't invent this, sadly, but AI is going to use it. Walmart has this. Why would Walmart want something like this? And tell us how this feeds in to the kind of unbelievable information asymmetry that is driving this surveillance pricing.
Yeah, look, companies hem and haw and deny that they're using things like surveillance pricing in many settings. But I think if we look at what they do and say in other settings, the technologies they're building and bothering to patent, to get monopoly rights for, to monetize, if we look at what they tell their investors, if we look at the companies they're scooping up, they're buying up AI pricing tech companies who come to market offering new surveillance pricing technologies, it really paints a different picture of where this country is headed and where our economy is headed. And, Walmart is a treasure trove of patent data about personalized pricing, personalized promotions, surveillance pricing, and all sorts of additional privacy that the company, or private information that the company is collecting on consumers. I mean, this doodle is, pretty horrifying, but it's really just the first step, building out the ability to use, cameras and cooler screens to take a look at what you're doing, to use your grocery cart, to monitor your temperature. All that is feeding into consumer intelligence scores, agitation scores that better estimate how much they can convince you to fork over for every item in that shopping cart.
DoorDash has a patent application for technology to measure how agitated a consumer is, so they'll know how desperate they are to get the food, to get what's coming to them. Uber monitors your phone's battery life. And why? Because they say one of the strongest predictors of whether or not you're going to be sensitive to a price surge is how much battery you have left on your cell phone. When your cell phone battery gets low, think about this next time you order an Uber. When your cell phone battery gets low, people start saying, well, I need to go home. And so they think they can probably raise the fares. Now, the point is, I think what we've seen today, and what all of you, thank you for your testimonies, which you've helped us to get onto the record, is companies, the biggest companies all over this country are doing this. AI is helping them do it. And who loses time after time? It's the consumer. And particularly, it's working people in this country. Professor Zhang made the point, and I don't doubt this is true, that the rich may end up paying more in certain circumstances, and that's fine. But what I'm really concerned about is time after time after time, it's working people who are going to be paying more, who are going to be forced to pay more, and frankly, the needy. Because the whole point here is to maximize the profit of these already wildly profitable corporations. I mean, Walmart, wildly profitable corporations who are trying to exploit every vulnerability. And the truth is, in America, everything costs too much already. It costs too much. Gas costs too much. Houses cost too much. Cars cost too much. Groceries cost too much. All of it costs too much. And now these corporations, who are the most profitable corporations in the history of the planet, are scheming with the biggest tech companies in the history of the world to figure out how to exploit you even further. And I would just submit that our capitalist system and our free market system, which I love and support, is based on a moral framework where we agree together. We call those things rights, where we agree together that people have certain rights and we protect those rights. And we need to give consumers and working people and families in this country rights against this kind of surveillance and exploitation. If we don't do that, the basic foundations, the moral foundations of our economy and of our country will be devastatingly eroded. And you see it already, and this is why people don't trust anything. They don't trust any institution. They certainly don't trust any of these companies we've talked about today, nor should they, because they're being exploited constantly. And it is this body's job to do something about that. So we need to stand up and say, we're going to protect the American people. We're going to give them rights. We're going to preserve that basic moral foundation that makes our economy and our country more broadly work and that we agree on together. So what makes us Americans. It's done us pretty good for the last 250 years. I think maybe we ought to preserve it. I'm going to give you the final word, Senator.
I associate myself with your remarks, Mr. Chairman, or in a different vernacular, amen. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you again to all of the witnesses. Before we close, I'd like to note the subcommittees received statements from the following interested parties: Professor Christian of the University of Michigan, Airlines for America, the National Retail Federation, the Center for Democracy and Technology, and the Walmart Corporation. Without objection, we'll put all of those into the record. This record for this hearing will remain open for 15 days until Wednesday, August 19th at 5 p.m. for the submission of statements and questions for the record. And with that, this hearing is adjourned.
You were just listening in to a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing on monitoring consumer spending and consumer habits and how AI surveillance is potentially playing a role in tracking how consumers are spending their money, and also really dissecting this important conversation of companies potentially using AI surveillance to increase prices based on what consumers are looking at online. We want to give you one quick look at the stocks as the market just closed up today. Stocks surged as analysts say this is powered by AI-linked corporate earnings and a sharp drop in oil prices. This as a deal with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz could come today or tomorrow. Today's big jump also comes as SpaceX released its first quarterly report. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be back after this 2-minute break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Over the weekend, the 31st annual Black Women's Expo was held at McCormick Place. We want to bring in Mary Green, who is the president and CEO of the Black Women's Expo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So how did the event go? Give us the rundown. It was a 3-day event. I'm sure it was a jam-packed weekend and you were busy. You can now take a breath. Tell us, was it a success?
Yes, it was. It has always been a success, but this year was incredible. I mean, we had some incredible talent, some star power on our main stage, and we had just a host of exhibitors, almost 250 exhibitors, small businesses on the floor, and about 25 corporate sponsors. We had some incredible activations, and the crowd was going wild for some of our star power talent over the weekend. So this was a very good year, even though we're always sort of the same weekend with a big festival in Grant Park.
Yeah, that's true.
It didn't affect our show. Yeah, it didn't affect our show.
Good, and hopefully traffic wasn't too bad getting there.
No.
You know, I saw that Keke Palmer was one of your highlights, and that she led a conversation on stage. Tell us a little bit about what she shared.
Well, you know, she's such an incredible young woman. Actress, she's just everything. She even sings, and now she has her own business. It's called Practice by Palmer. So not only did she be interviewed on our main stage, just talk about her career, you know, what it was like to get to where she is today. She is Chicago's own as well. You know, as most people know, she was really born here. But in the afternoon, later in the afternoon, she did her own private, exclusive Pilates class, because her new business opportunity that she has is called Practice by Palmer, where she'll be doing Pilates instructions online. And so we had 100 women that had to register. Well, you had to register to be a part of it, and it went like that a couple days before the event.
I bet it did. And, you know, I want to just stop there for a moment.
No problem.
Keke Palmer is, you know, you mentioned this talented singer and actress, but to see someone then maybe make a little bit of a career shift, it shows that anyone can do it. You know, and perhaps she'll continue to act and perform. But what does that say about, you know, just people out there who perhaps want to make a career shift? And I'm sure they found great inspiration at the expo this year.
Oh, lots of inspiration at the expo, a lot of role models. And so many women are doing multiple things. You know, we juggle. You know, we might have we might be working for someone and have, you know, a job or be employed, but always got something that we're doing on the side. You know, and I think, you know, to see that with Keke was incredible. And to see her actually instruct this whole class. So she changed clothes, and at 4:15 in the afternoon, she was on stage in one of our breakouts, 100 women lying on the floor with her branded and Humana branded yoga mats. And she led this class for about 45 minutes. She's great. And she doesn't need Pilates. I mean, she is like so exceptional in terms of, you know, her exercising. But it was great for the women. They got to see her not only as we see her most times, you know, acting or at awards shows, you know, on the mic, but she came and she just got down on the floor with everybody else. It was incredible.
I bet that's really something to be able to share is, hey, I took a Pilates class from Keke.
I know.
Of course, not just about the star power, but some really important discussions over the weekend, including about voter rights, getting out to vote. You know, here in Chicago, obviously gearing up for the race for mayor and that election. Talk about, you know, some of those conversations that were had and why it's important to have those discussions at your expo.
Not only were they the discussions that we had in our breakouts, we had about 40 breakouts sessions over the weekend that went from everything from health, wellness, relationships, your rights, business, how to get in and out of business, how to start your own business, how to keep it. But we wanted to talk about the voting rights and the suppression of votes for our community. So Congressman Jonathan Jackson led and hosted that town hall meeting on Saturday afternoon with some real heavy hitters to talk about how we will continue and how we should continue to know that our vote matters. So that was very important. And then there were sessions about everything, as I mentioned, from business, health, and wellness. But it was important that we really tackle some of the issues that are going on in the Black community, even with some of the crime and those things. I mean, we talked about everything. Men, there were a group of men there doing a whole session on mental health with men. So it's not just for women, even though it's called the Black Women's Expo. We always, in the last, I would say, 10 years, have made sure that we have sessions that would be really targeting Black men, because there are issues that we wanted to discuss with them as well.
And what do you find the attendees gain from this? Some of them who maybe are first timers are walking in not knowing what to expect. At the end of the weekend, how do you see those attendees perhaps come out of it with a new perspective?
Well, I think for first timers, they're probably really amazed that there's so much you can do for this little, inexpensive ticket price to be there, that you actually have a main stage of entertainment and fashion shows and hair shows and dance and local artists singing and national artists singing. Not only did we have Keke Palmer, but Joy Reid was on our main stage on Friday, who used to be with MSNBC, has her own podcast now. So she was there being interviewed, by Melody Span Cooper, actually, from WVON Radio. So we involved the entire community. We want to hear from her as well. But I think people know, the people who are new are amazed by how much goes on, that you can be on the floor and you could, go around and shop, and you could visit all of the exhibitors and all of the sponsors. You could go over to our demonstration space and dance and see exercise and fitness going on. You can go up and upstairs to our breakouts, more than 40 breakouts, and really sit down for a while and listen to really important conversations. Education, information is overflowing at the expo. I think they're amazed by that, but I think they walk away saying, wow, there's so much that I can do. If it can be done, why not me?
Exactly. Now, Mary, tell us a little bit, take us back to the beginning. You founded this expo. Walk me back to those early days and what inspired you, and why did you see a need for this?
Well, it was 31 years ago. It actually was 31 years ago. I was the promotion and marketing director of V103 Radio. And it was my job to create, opportunities and events and activations for our community, and especially for the radio community that we had. And it was mostly women, Black women, 60% female and 40% male. And to be honest with you, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, had kind of relaxed the rules on what radio stations had to do in terms of public affairs programs. So we weren't doing a lot of on-air programming of that sort. And the community was calling the station and writing letters saying, we want to talk about these issues. When are you guys going to talk about that? I want you to come out into the community and get more engaged. And so that gave us the opportunity to create the expo. I did not think, I will tell you, no one could have told me that 31 years later we'd still be here and it would be growing and be a platform, which it has become. I mean, it's become, people are at the show this year saying, okay, how do I get involved next year?
Absolutely.
I know, and I'm like, are you guys serious? It's been 32 years, so we are definitely gearing up for next year.
And how did it get so big year after year? I'm sure word of mouth, but as you mentioned, I mean, people are now traveling in for this.
Yes. It got big because of our sort of like our marketing and promotion of it as well. I mean, in the beginning, of course, a big radio station and one of the biggest stations in the market, but we also have our television partners. We also have newspapers and all of our digital partners. So we make sure that we keep the information out, and I'm so excited to be on Fox this year with you guys. I mean, we have so much promotion this year. I had somebody tell me this morning, say, I saw you on everything. I saw so much about the expo this year, more than any other year. And that's, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. But information gets out, word of mouth. All of these for-profit organizations in the city are part of the expo. They are exhibiting, they are getting information. There's all of these health screenings, and then whether it's Northwestern or whether it's University of Chicago Medicine, they are there doing health screenings. So it has become a place where you can find the Black community, you can find Black women. If that is your target, that's the place to be.
And one last question, Mary, leave us with this, a message to viewers about the importance of community involvement and the importance of knowing what's going on in your community and making those connections.
It's important. I think our community, Chicago, has a really vibrant Black community than many other cities. Kind of spread out and everywhere. Chicago still has that community feel, and word of mouth. And like I said, organization from organization, they know when the expo is coming. They're asking now, what are our dates for next year? So they get geared up and ready to be a part because they know that this is a place where they can really, connect with that community. So I just think that, just keep listening, keep watching us. Our website is bwenext.com, bwenext.com, and you will see all of the information of the show coming up moving forward. But it's important to stay connected, and that's why we allow it affordable for everyone to attend. We allow it affordable for you to exhibit, because this is something that is needed in our community.
Mary, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon. That was Mary Green, President and CEO of the Black Women's Expo. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We've got about 30 minutes left, taking a live look outside at the Chicago River. As JD pointed out earlier, in the bottom right corner there is the Hello Kitty Cafe. Jake Hamilton will bring you an update on that tomorrow on Chicago Live. It's been a hot ticket in town. People are waiting a really long time to get into that Hello Kitty Cafe. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Our next guest will be coming to us from Cook County Health. In the next year, Cook County Health expects to provide roughly $485 million in free or discounted care. Bringing in now the CEO of Cook County Health, Dr. Eric Makaitis. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Casey. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. So walk us through this new set of funds and what it will do to those seeking care through Cook County Health.
Absolutely. I think it's important to take a step back and really look at the macro kind of movements that are happening right now in terms of federal policy changes. Looking back at the beginning of this year, in January, the Affordable Care Act tax credits expired, and we saw an increase in almost a doubling of out-of-pocket costs for people who were impacted by those tax credit changes. And to date, we've seen almost 100,000 people forego their coverage because they can't afford to continue their coverage through the program. Looking forward in October, we're going to see another 10,000 people lose coverage. This is now as part of HR 1, otherwise known as the Big Beautiful Bill. Another 10,000 Illinoisans losing their coverage because of a redefinition of immigrant status that for people who are eligible for Medicaid coverage. And then in January, we have both work requirements and a doubling of the cadence for redetermination, which is the process where people prove up that they're still eligible for Medicaid. So all of those pieces are coming into play and are going to lead to a lot of people coming off the Medicaid rolls. All in, we're anticipating about 400,000 Illinoisans are going to lose their Medicaid coverage, and half of those people live right here in Cook County.
And Go ahead.
I was going to say, so that's leading to that increase in the charity care that we're projecting close to $500 million.
And Dr. Makaitis, I see here that in 2027, Cook County Health is projecting that 30% of patients that seek care at Cook County Health will be uninsured, and that is more than double a 13% low back in 2023. This is really significant. Talk about just the importance of this. I mean, to highlight this number, that's a third of patients who will be uninsured. What does that say to you, and where do you see there being the greatest need in terms of what type of care?
Yeah, so there's a few pieces to that. We'll start with the patients who are losing their coverage. We know that when people don't have health insurance, they tend not to engage in preventative care. So what we're anticipating is going to happen in the coming years, people, instead of going to the clinics to have their blood pressure or their diabetes managed, they're going to wait and not treat their chronic diseases and end up in the emergency room with strokes or heart attacks. So unfortunately, much more costly care and much more burdensome and much worse outcomes, unfortunately, for those patients. That's at the patient level. It means a whole lot to the safety net ecosystem as well. We already have seen 2 hospitals close in the last year and a half, and we know a few more are on the bubble already, and that's without the kind of the future-facing policy changes related to HR 1 that are just going to add pressure to hospitals staying open. So there's kind of a bigger concern in terms of healthcare availability and what the hospital ecosystem is going to look like over the coming years. Should there be additional closures, we're anticipating that there likely will be. It's going to cause kind of a change in where patients are seeking out their care. So, a lot of people who may not even know anybody on Medicaid and they get their health care, not from a safety net hospital, are going to be impacted, because as these hospitals close, those patients are going to have to seek care somewhere. So anticipate longer waits in hospitals that may not have, treated populations with Medicaid.
Do you expect this will impact a certain group more than others? Young people, older people, families in certain parts of the city? Talk to us just a little bit about, who is most at risk of being impacted by these changes?
So the policy changes directly are affecting the Affordable Care Act adults. So that's 19 to 64 without dependents and without disabilities. Those are the people who are going to have that doubling in the cadence and have to do work requirements. The other piece I mentioned, October, 10,000 people losing coverage. That's a redefinition on immigration status. So victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, they're no longer going to be eligible for Medicaid coverage.
And Cook County Health is one of the largest public health systems across the nation. How are you preparing your providers during this transitional time?
So we've really been preparing since 2024, once the Big Beautiful Bill was starting to be talked about, and I'm very proud of the team. We've actually removed about $315 million from our expenses, preparing for these additional pressures. Now, there's a lot more work to do. We have a plan laid out for the coming year, a lot of work around access and ensuring that we're running our clinics and our procedural units very efficiently so that we can get as many people in for the care that they need.
And tell us a little bit more about the health system's budget that will eventually become part of the county budget.
Yeah, that's right. So, as you can imagine, as we're removing the expenses, the total budget has reduced. So we were at one point about 5.1 billion. We've now come down to 4.7 billion. And that will, as we move through the process in October, November, moving for final approval, it'll get wrapped up into the broader county budget. As it stands right now, we have closed an over 215 million gap from the preliminary budget. We're now down to 40 million. And that is a space where we're asking the county to provide additional support to help us close that final piece of the gap.
And what advice do you have for patients who will be impacted? You mentioned that, when someone doesn't have insurance, they're less likely to seek care. And in a lot of cases, it's necessary care that they need to manage chronic illnesses or other injuries. And some people become fearful then to go seek care if they don't have insurance for fear that they just simply won't be able to afford it. What would your message be, your advice for those people be as we do move forward in the next several months?
So I would say to start, the changes haven't come into play yet, so get informed. We've seen concerning numbers that more than half of Medicaid recipients don't know that these changes are coming. So stay engaged with your current provider, stay informed. We have launched a microsite called getmedicaidfacts.com. I would encourage people to go. There's FAQs about all these changes. There are schedules for events that they can go and have help with the redetermination process. And then there's a link out to the state's website. What we see, unfortunately, when more procedural more of these processes get put in place, unfortunately, it becomes an administrative dropping of patients off the rolls. It's not that they're not eligible anymore. It's that paperwork doesn't get to the right place, or it's not returned timely, and people fall off the rolls because of that. It's not that they shouldn't be on the rolls. So ensuring that you're lockstep and informed and ready for those changes.
And when the time does come, if the time comes, to access some of those funds, that $485 million in free or discounted care, what do patients need to know about that? How will that ultimately be handled if someone does not have insurance and can't afford care?
So that is our mission. We're here to treat everyone regardless of ability to pay or any other circumstance. That is who we are. It's what we do. So we would welcome them at any of our treatment facilities. We do offer. It's a program called CareLink. It's our charity care program. So it functions kind of like an internal insurance system. So they would have a card and they would come and get services from us. So we would encourage engaging with us if that does happen.
Dr. Eric Makaitis, thank you so much for being with us. Any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to share where we're at.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We've got one more interview guest that'll be joining us in just a little bit. Before we go, let's take another look out there on Lake Michigan. A few boats in the water now. As JD mentioned, beautiful day today, potential for storms the next couple of days, but things should level out by the end of the week. Stay right here.
Traditions evolve.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Here in the city and suburbs, we are constantly monitoring new things popping up, including restaurants, bars, businesses, and coffee shops. A new Groundswell location just opened on Michigan Avenue. We want to bring in the owner, Jason Foster. Thank you for being with us, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me, Casey. Appreciate it.
Of course. So Groundswell just opened a new cafe in the main level of the Fine Arts Building. Tell us a little bit about what went into choosing this location.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is our third location now, and the first two locations were really kind of more vanilla box, kind of like in condo buildings. And for the third location, I really wanted to look for something unique, something historic, something kind of a story to it. And it just so happened the owner of the Fine Arts Building, Erica, reached out to me, and I walked in and I thought, my gosh, this is perfect. So it was a great fit, and that was, a little over a year ago now. And it took a lot to turn a building from 1898 into a coffee shop, but here we are. We did it. So we've been open about a week now.
And I was just at the Fine Arts Building last week covering the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra that was set to play at Lollapalooza. Sadly, their set did get canceled, but they're located in that building. It was my first time in the building, and it really is a magnificent space. Those elevators in that building, they're the only manually operated elevators, is what I was told, still in the city of Chicago. There are no other elevators in the building that you can use, but they're essentially hand maneuvered. And it's just really fascinating to be in that space. Do you find that it adds character, to the coffee shop and to the cafe? You mentioned it's different than your other locations.
Yeah, it adds a ton of character. And like I said, there's a real story to this space. It's 125 years old, and actually turning this space into a coffee shop, there was a big vacant elevator shaft there that we had to close up, and we still have the elevator door facade kind of as a decoration behind the condiment bar in our shop, and it really is a notable element of the building. And it's funny, I was in the building with my 10-year-old son yesterday and going up and down the manual elevator, and he was really uneasy about it, and the operator wanted him to operate the elevator, and he said, no, I'm good, thanks. But it's fun. It's a trip. And I mean, people get on those elevators and they're taking videos, and it's awesome.
It does really speak to just so many gems that are right in front of us, here in the city. And really, I encourage anyone to check out some of these buildings. Even if you just are walking by, you can pop your head in. Really cool to see this landmark building and in a way become revitalized with spaces like yours. Give us some background, Jason. How did you get your start with Groundswell?
Yeah, so in 2015, very long story short, I wanted to roast coffee. I wanted to build kind of a community hub in the Ravenswood neighborhood, and from there, I think it's just 10 years down the road, we've opened 2 other shops now. And it's been a real ride. It feels like it happened a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, it's been great.
And give us a little bit of a flavor. Describe for our viewers, what your coffee is known for, what they can expect.
Yeah, so really we're craft coffee. So I would highlight the intentional sourcing of our coffee, where we have direct trade relationships with all the farmers that we work with, all the importers we're really tight with, and we're really seeing the coffee through from start to finish with a lot of intention. And when that arrives at each shop, including the Fine Arts Building, I mean, we have baristas preparing it with the utmost care and very intentionally, and you're going to get a great experience.
And I see, too, that you're offering an exclusive Groundswell by Fine Arts Building coffee roast. Can you only get that at this new location?
Yeah, that is exclusive to the Fine Arts Building, and that's a blend that our head roaster Quinn put together, and it's to highlight the construction of the building in 1898, and it's a real intentional blend with a couple of our most popular origins.
Yeah. Any other locations you got cooking? I know you just opened this one up, but do you see yourself expanding even further? And give us also the locations of your other two cafes.
Sure. So the other locations are in Ravenswood on Damon and Lawrence, one in the West Loop on Madison and Racine, and now, of course, the building we're talking of, 408 South Michigan. As far as other locations cooking, in my head, yeah, I would love to build some more shops. It's real fun. It's real inspiring for me. We got to get our feet underneath us with this one first, but yeah, more locations in the works, and I would love to find some more unique spaces with unique stories.
And Jason, I'm curious too, in a space like coffee roasting, where there are so many wonderful craft roasters across the area, how do you stay competitive?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. We're all kind of we're competitive. We're all friendly competitors. We're in it together. But yeah, on the same token, it's like someone goes in down the street and it makes it a little tougher. So, as saturated as it seems like it may be, I think there's still so much room, and there's so much of demand for craft coffee in Chicago, and people love it. And if you have a good product, I just don't really think it's a huge issue. I think everyone's got there's room for everyone here.
Thank you so much, Jason, for joining us here on Chicago Live. Anything else you want to share with our viewers?
That's all I have. I would just love for people to come by and see us. We're centrally located right across from Grant Park. So if you're at Jazz Fest or whatever it may be, just come say hi and we'll hook you up with a nice cup of coffee.
All right. That was Jason Foster, founder of Groundswell. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
We want to switch gears now to Skyfox, which is over a garage fire in Downers Grove. Oh my goodness, just take a look. They're still fighting that active blaze, completely destroyed there. No word yet from officials on whether any injuries were tied to this, but our Skyfox is there. You can see those firefighters actively going after that fire. It looks like it is almost put out, but we just saw some flames there, so perhaps they're tackling some hot spots, but just completely destroyed there. Flames just popped up again, so you can tell, and another piece just fell too. So they are actively going after this. It appears, because it looks like it's next to a backyard, it appears that perhaps this is on a property of a home. It's unclear right now if this is detached. We'll be able to get a clearer picture when that chopper does get a wider shot. But you can see there that's someone's backyard. There's a hammock there. It looks like a back patio. Perhaps that's the house kind of in the foreground there. A lot of firefighters actively going after that. Perhaps it looks like there was a car in the garage. We'll be curious to see what the cause of this fire was. Again, they're going after it, putting it out, but that one spot there, you can see those flames keeps popping up, which leads me to think that perhaps there is a vehicle there that caught on fire. Okay, here's a little bit of a wider shot. So it does look like it was next to one of those homes there. Looks like chopper is readjusting now. So it was next to a home, Downers Grove. We'll work on getting the exact address. We hope everyone in that situation was okay. And now an investigation will start as to, what led to that fire. We'll bring you the latest on that as we have it. We're getting ready here for the news at 4. We have just under 10 minutes left together. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. After 36 years, a beloved West Loop restaurant has decided to close its doors. The Southern-inspired cuisine at Wishbone, visitors will only have about a month left before they shutter. We want to bring in now our Joni Lum, who is covering this story today for the news at 4 and 5. Joni is outside of that restaurant. Joni, you just spoke with the owners. Tell me a little bit about what they shared, what went into their decision to shut down.
Well, you know, a lot of economic things went into their decision to shut down. I didn't realize that the owner, Joel Nixon, he told me he's in his 70s. Wow. And things are just getting harder, and things are more expensive, and fewer people are eating lunch out, and all those things that plague all kinds of restaurants. But ever since they made the announcement they are going to close for good, they have been super, super busy. And they were busy when I was in there, and it was after closing time. So they just felt like, he said, I should have hired more people. And everyone was hugging him, and everyone was telling him stories. And he said it's like attending his own funeral.
Oh, my gosh.
He got really choked up because over 36 years, you really build a community. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you remember, they started at Grandin Wood. Mm-hmm. They had a little diner there. And then in the 90s, they moved over to where Harpo Studios was, and they were the only restaurant there. So, like, they were on the way to United Center too. So the people who went on the Oprah show went to Wishbone, and the Bulls players would stop in because it was on their way. And there wasn't the madcap kind of neighborhood that there is there now. And they really enjoyed a heyday. They even served dinner. They were like, a party place. So those were the good days. And then they had to move over here. We're on North Jefferson. It's right by the L tracks, Jefferson and Lake. And it's a nice place that they've been serving, I think, since 2018. But they say it's time, and they have 42 employees. He's meeting with other restaurateurs to get jobs for his employees who have been there for like 15, 20, and 25 years. They're like a family. Yeah. Meanwhile, the customers are coming in and talking about, the Sunday brunches and the baby showers and everything they had at Wishbone. Same here. I told him, I was like, we used to go to the one on Washington, like in the middle of your shift, you could pop in and get a quick lunch. Back when people did stuff like that, and they always made you feel special, like you were a celebrity too. That's what I'll remember. And the Southern cuisine. He's so fun. It's like, I couldn't sell shrimp and grits. I had to explain it to people. It's kind of like polenta, and I was like, oh, those darn Northerners. Yeah. but now people are loving it, and they had to stay open a little bit later because they had so many customers.
Because so many people. I remember going there as a kid. It's always sad to see an establishment like that close their doors, but as you mentioned, costs are going up. They've been doing it for so long. Really wonderful that they're helping to find jobs for their employees. I'm sure many of those employees have been with them for decades.
Exactly. And, I think they have 3 kids, and one of them is a chef. Mm-hmm. So, you find like the job you've been doing for 36 years isn't working out, you can go work for your son. And he said maybe I could assist him.
And I know, Joni, that during COVID, like so many other restaurants, they ran into some trouble too with, just kind of getting back up to speed after COVID and trying to stay afloat during that time. So it seems like in recent years, there's just been so many challenges for a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, he said that like the office working type people who would go to lunch, it still hasn't really come back, or it isn't what it used to be. And with, prices rising on everything, it's just harder. And he's thinking about the bank accounts. And if he won't have to do that anymore once he retires. Also, they had some problems in the restaurant that were going to cost a lot of money to fix. And he has said this before. Maybe you saw the quote where he said, my wife and I were talking about it, and we're just one disaster away from failure. So maybe now's the time.
Now's the time.
To, say goodbye.
After an incredible run. Joni, thank you. We'll look forward to that story coming up at 4 and 5. We'll see you then. And thank you for joining us here on Chicago Live. It was great to be with you on day 2 of our broadcast program. Digital and broadcast now. You can catch us here every day from 1 to 4. Thanks for being with us.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
A weekend trip for two local kayakers turned into a search and ended in